The Rat King is one of those characters surrounded by mystery, no matter which version you look into. Something is always up to your interpretation of many of the stories in which he appears. And sometimes, your interpretation could be really fascinating. This is something that happened with the Archie version of the Rat King, a character who appeared only twice, in stories that weren't even about him, and ended up inspiring fans to get his creator involved in an unofficial project to explain it all. Join me today as I explore the Archie adventure story of Lord Honton, the Rat King. While searching for the Shredder's secret lair in the sewers, the turtles entered a section they had never explored before, a very dry, almost abandoned part of the system. The turtles found themselves surrounded by rats, being herded forward. The rats eventually took them to their king, Lord Honton, the Rat King. Honton warned them that the rats were his children and that they were trespassing on his territory. Those who entered his kingdom were usually eaten. So he asked the turtles why he should make an exception. Leonardo, seeing how outnumbered they were, knew they weren't walking out of there alive if this went wrong. So instead of fighting, he chose to acknowledge his power. He explained that they did not know this was his domain and were only passing through. He also told him they were looking for the Shredder and Krang. The Rat King considered this for a moment before pointing them in the right direction. The turtles eventually found the Shredder, but that's a whole different story. What matters here is that Leonardo made the right choice. The Rat King could mentally control rats, potentially giving him influence over every rat in the city. Against that kind of power, the turtles stood no chance. The turtles never crossed paths with the Rat King again, at least not in the present. In stories set in what appears to be the future of this timeline, we learned that there was something unusual about him. It began when rising sea levels flooded cities around the world. The water forced rats out of the sewers and into buildings. As expected, this created a dangerous situation, since rats are carriers of infectious diseases. To control the population, Donatello partnered with a mutant cat named Manx to design robots that could eliminate them. The plan worked, and it immediately put the turtles at odds with Honton. A conflict followed, lasting for days, until the Rat King chose to retreat. He disappeared long enough for the turtles to believe the war was over. Years later, the turtles teamed up with their past selves to face Shredder, Armageddon, and Manx, who was now known as Verminator X. What they didn't know was that Honton was working with them. He felt betrayed by humanity. Humans and rats had shared the city for centuries, but once humans tried to wipe them out, he decided the city should belong to rodents alone. While Mikey initially knocked him out, the Rat King was able to control Splinter. Rat King could have won that battle, but Murdude intervened, tricking Verminator X into blasting a hole in the wall of their underwater base. The structure flooded, and the villains were washed away. This was the Rat King's last appearance in any timeline, and given that the story took place 100 years in the future, we could assume that Honton lived a very long life. The Rat King was created by Jim Lawson for Tales of the TMNT in 1988. He was later adapted into the toy line and the Fred Wolf cartoon in 1989, where he was officially named the Rat King. I've already covered those versions before. His Archie debut came 1 year later, in 1990, in an issue also penciled by Jim Lawson. Since the character has always been surrounded by mystery, this version introduced a new detail to his backstory: a name. Lord Honton appears to have taken his name from the Honton River in South Korea, where a rodent-borne virus was first identified in the 1970s. This is where the term hantavirus comes from. But as with the other versions, the information remains incomplete. How could he live for so long? Was there something supernatural about him? Where did his powers come from? While no official answers were ever given, These ideas would go on to inspire other versions. At the time of this writing, there are no action figures based on this version of the Rat King, although he did receive a HeroClix figure in 2018. Now, if you're open to fan interpretations, you should know that the Rat King was set to return in the pages of the Forever War saga. This story was unfortunately cancelled twice. Frustrated, fans decided to finish the story themselves, using as much of the original material as possible. In this version, it's revealed that the Rat King was actually Chet Manley, the boy who lost the turtles. When he went down into the sewer, he ran into the Shredder, who was carrying a canister of ooze. A small amount of mutagen spilled onto Chet. This was not enough to transform him into another creature, but it immediately gave him control over rats. However, because he was just a kid, he was afraid of them and didn't realize what was really going on. He was later taken by DARPA and studied by Dr. Sinargo and Dr. Stockman. They discovered that he was not only mutated, but also had a healing factor. This ability came with an unwanted side effect. It made him age into an adult. Think of him as some kind of Deadpool. Eventually, he discovered his connection to the rats, and they helped him escape. After finding a new home in the sewers, the rats recognized him as their king and gave him the name Lord Honton. Even though this was a fan-driven continuation, it's worth noting that Forever War was penciled by Chris Allen, the original artist of that saga, and this version of the Rat King's origin was illustrated by Jim Lawson himself. This idea of the Rat King being Chet came from two key observations. One was that Artem Sarkov, one of the writers, found the Rat King on the original covers of the Forever War to look a lot like Chet. The second was a typo in the Mutant Universe sourcebook, which listed the Rat King's first appearance as issue 1 instead of issue 11. This led to an interesting question. What if the typo was intentional, and he had been there all along? I usually don't enjoy fan fiction, but I have to admit, it was a bit surreal to see the creator of the character working on a fan-made take on the Rat King. Even though he didn't write the story, I think it deserves a mention, at least as a what-if scenario. What do you think about this origin? Do you prefer this version of the character or another one? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.